And yeah, it didn't hurt as well that what the opening goal in this game for Bayside was just complete freak of nature of a goal from Coco Parker.
You see it and you always have to blink because you're like, how did that happen? And it reminded me of a goal we saw last night, which we'll speak about. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But that goal, top bins. Do you reckon it was could do that twice in a row, or was it a bit of a...
I don't know. I feel like that's one of the ones you don't necessarily repeat. But yeah, if you haven't seen it, go over to NPL.tv and watch Coco Parker's opening goal for Bayside United,
to be honest,
getting them their first win of the season, their first points since the start of April. So really, really has been
Group has been providing superior civil engineering solutions and advice to developers, local government and service authorities across Australia. Lanco Group is known for delivering sustainable, efficient solutions. By working closely with clients, Lanco Group is able to meet the complex infrastructure requirements for residential, commercial and industrial developments on time, on budget. Find out more at lancogroup.com.au. Lanco Group, your business partner for engineering solutions.
Maloney takes, and it's in! It's Ben Watson! It's Ben Watson for Wigan Athletic! They've surely won the FA Cup! For Dave Whelan, for Roberto Martinez! You just cannot write scripts like this.
Are you looking to change your destiny in life? Be your own boss? Start your own business? If you are, you need people who understand your needs and are committed to helping you make it happen. At DKP & Co Chartered Accountants, we are more than just accountants. We are business advisors, taxation consultants, and strategists that specialise in setting up businesses. We understand the client and give them the very best customised advice and strategies to achieve their goals. Visit our website dkpco.com.au or give us a call today on 03 9023 9370. Fast, proactive, personal. That's DKP & Co Chartered Accountants.
Towards a pivotal point of the season. In fact, you know what, Nick D'Urbano, we've reached one of the pivotal events of the Victorian footballing calendar. You know what milestone we reached this week after we all nearly blew away in the blustery winds of the most recent match week?
What's that?
What time of the year is it, Nick?
It's July.
No.
The final month
it's mathematical relegation time.
Oh, yeah, it
That's
is
what
too.
time of the year it is.
You caught me off guard there, man.
Lachie Flannigan and Nick D'Urbano with you, back again on the NPL Victoria podcast. And for the first time, we can announce with heavy hearts, our first mathematical relegation of the Victorian footballing season, or at least in the NPLs, because a lot of them aren't running automatic relegation at the moment. But the Eastern Lions, they are down. They are saying goodbye to the NPL at season's end. And unfortunately, despite their courageous namesake, the Lions, they're going out with a bit of a whimper.
Yep, 2-0 loss against Melbourne Knights on Saturday down at Gardeners Creek Reserve. The wait for a win, the wait for a point at home extends, and it looks like it will extend potentially into August, potentially into 2023. Because they've only got now 2 games left at home for the season, 4 games left for the season. But yes, 13 points inside the drop zone. Hume City, they didn't have to really do much. They actually lost against Heidelberg, but Eastern Lions just had to get something. But Melbourne Knights back in some form with a win on Saturday. I think that's probably the best place to start because obviously we've got to get through everything. But
it is. But before we go there, Nick, I just want to ask, because I spent so much time talking about the ins and outs, the nuts and bolts of the actual league, that I forgot to connect with Nick the person. How are you, Nick? Because it was a wet and wild weekend. The gusts, they were going. There was gale force winds everywhere.
I feel like I've been handed a sock. like I'm
As a Dobby reference, not a weird nefarious thing going on.
I've been handed like a sock, like Dobby. Like
I'm finally asking you how you are.
No,
I am capable.
I am good. It's been a busy few days. Saturday down.
But did you survive the bluster?
Well, I'm here,
of this
Lachie,
weekend?
so I just made it. I just made it through on Saturday. I just made it through on Monday at the Venator Club as well. Down we were at. We'll talk about that one a little bit later in Manningham.
Well, we hope everyone listening as well made it through the weekend safely with all the wind. And thank you as well over the weekend that those of you who didn't blow away were able to leave some very nice comments about the show as well over the weekend. We got some nice feedback, so that was pleasing.
But how are you after a doubleheader on Saturday? You're in Epping, you're in Dandenong.
I did 4 games this weekend.
Jesus.
There's a small shred left of my sanity remaining, and I'm using it to get through get through this hour. But all really good games this weekend. I was actually quite blessed. 4 games. I got to cover, I think, every NPL league for the first time in a weekend.
Men's leagues, of course.
Yes, every men's league. I didn't get to do the women's this week, but 1, 2, and 3. And great goals in all of the games. Looking forward to talking about it. But we'll start with a game that neither of us did, but our close associates were covering it, Ed Gooden and Pakua Frimpong there for our first relegation. We've teased it enough already. Melbourne Knights 2, Eastern Lions 0 at Gardeners Creek Reserve. The Lions going down after 3 seasons in the top flight, I guess. Yeah. If you can call the past 2 seasons, if you can call them a season, really. But they do finally go down.
It's a disappointing finish, I think, because, they've had a lot of change. From what I understand, a bit of divide about where they wanted to take the club this season, about some thinking, all right, do we load up mid-year and try and, put together an unlikely survival push, or do we just focus on playing the kids? And in the end, they went for the latter. They sold a lot of players. I mean, Ryan Losty, Charlie Fry, Ioannis Georgopoulos amongst them, all departed for other clubs. And in the end, I mean, the focus towards playing the kids and really just the quality of this squad was not enough to stay up. And I think the writing's been on the wall now for quite some time. It's disappointing because at the start of the season, the first few weeks, they were competitive. They were very competitive early in the season. And now it's back to the drawing board. And I'm a bit concerned for them, Lachie, because as we've seen, NPL2 is not an easy league to get out of. And NPL2 has the tendency to throw a bit of a spanner into the works in terms of, the promotion race. And especially when you look at, the teams that might not go up this year, which we'll talk about a bit later, and the quality in that division. If you don't have the quality and you don't load up on it, you can find yourself being stuck there for quite some time. So,
and even when you do load up on quality, it might not even be enough. Dandenong City are not odds on to save themselves. No. I guess you can.
So basically, for them, and it'll be interesting to see what they decide to do with Andrea Lombardo as the head coach, because he still hasn't won a game yet since taking over, replacing Kosti Puskashu. So for them, back to the drawing board. For Melbourne Knights, a win. It's been a long time coming for them. The
fact that they didn't play a game the previous week definitely added to that long wait.
But it's been a while between drinks for them. It's a much-needed 3 points for them as well, just to get things back on track a little bit. We know that right now they're simply just playing for pride. Finals, I mean, even with the game in hand, they're 10 points off. Look, they win that game in hand, they're 7 points off with 4 games to go. That's not going to happen.
I'm sorry, Knights fans, if you're listening, but you're not a finals.
Focus on 2023, so a bit for them to look towards.
All I really want to say, we kind of have to give a perfunctory match report because it was kind of a Melbourne Knights game in the end, but a great performance from Gian Albano. A beautiful first goal, hitting it with the outside of his foot, and then a really, really mazy sort of dribble and run down the left-hand side, setting up young Luka Kolic, who I think 18 years of age, and he now has 2 senior goals in his debut year for Melbourne Knights, and both very well-taken goals. I actually think in what has been a difficult season for the Knights, he has been a real bright spark. I've really been impressed by his performances, and this was getting towards one of the best lineups I've seen from the Melbourne Knights this season. There are still a few dud players that I think they'll have to move on, but maybe some green.
Very, very harsh there. A few duds.
There's just some players that I don't really rate.
They're going to have look if they're going to want to get back to being a finals team and competing amongst the top echelon of.
Well, and not only that, but if they're going to be potentially a national second division side as well,
Absolutely.
which who knows if that's going to happen next year or not. Your mail is as good as ours at this point, listeners. But yeah, they're going to need more than what they're putting together now. Final one before we move on to this game. Two-parter question for you, Nick. A, do you have a favourite Eastern Lions NPL top flight memory? And B, do you see them getting back to the top flight, bouncing straight back up?
After I answer these, I'm going to ask the same question of you. But for Eastern Lions, probably in terms of favourite memory, I think actually, even though I didn't win this game, it was the first home game of the season this year against Oakleigh. Down 2-0 early, found a way to get back into the contest and levelled things. There was a real good vibe around Gardens Creek Reserve that day. It was a hot day, but it was there was a lot of promise in that team. And, they were playing some good football. I mean, they had the likes of Drustis running around, still had Losty, still had Fry. They were going for it. They looked rejuvenated. I mean, that's up there certainly with their first game up in 2020. Obviously, unfortunately for them, and the unfortunate circumstances surrounding the club and obviously the coach in those few years, Lachie. It's obviously been a few tough years for Eastern Lions in the Eastern Lions community. But do I see them going back up, Lachie? Probably not. I think they're going to find it really hard to come back up next year. They're going to have to load up because the teams that don't go up next season, especially from NPL2, if you're looking at right now, just say for hypotheticals, the likes of Bulleen and
a lot of the relegated teams have shown just how hard it is to get back into the top flight.
You look at Bulleen, you look at Pascoe Vale. I mean, Kingston as well.
Are in danger of going absolutely. Into the NPL3 at this rate.
It's hard. And you look at the teams coming up from NPL3. I mean, Preston Lions aren't going to be an easy beat at all next season. And we know they're going to load up going into next year.
And the academy sides too.
Yeah, Melbourne City aren't going to be an easy beat, whether it's Victory or Western United, even Nunawading. We don't know. So, I mean, Eastern Lions, I think, are going to find it very hard if they're going with the same strategy of just playing the kids because they're going to have to load up. They're going to have to go again. They're going to have to get some big signings in if they want to get back up to the top tier. Lachie, what about you in terms of happy moments, and do you see them coming back up?
Well, actually, it was a bit of a self-serving question because I did have a clear leader for favourite Eastern Lions moment, and it was a bit of a sentimental moment. 5th of March 2021, the Eastern Lions played South Melbourne at Lakeside Stadium, and if memory serves me correctly, it was the first game they played after the passing of the late great Jimmy Williams, who was the long-serving coach who got them up to the NPL Victoria in the first place. It was a 1-1 draw in the end, but all things considered, that's a massive result against South Melbourne. But they opened the scoring through Jonas Georgopoulos, who scored this brilliant drive from the edge of the box, and they had this lovely, celebration as a team. And I think that at that time there was some real sort of, obviously pain because of the circumstances of what happened, but hope that the team would sort of carry on his legacy. And look, I think they have done that in many respects, even if they are going back down to the NPL2. As for them coming back up, I think a lot of it depends on... See, I'm biased by the fact that I've watched Eastern Lions play in the NPL2, and I was covering that 2019 season where they were just such a dominant force in the Eastern Conference. I think I would have said yes. Because I do think their brand of football is really suited to the NPL2.
Sure.
But the removal of the conference system, I think, really hurts them because they are coming up against more regularly against the likes of the Western Conference teams, which was traditionally the more stronger conference. I mean, we saw St Albans spank Eastern in the sort of NPL2 grand final quite convincingly. So I wonder if that might hamper them. I'll be keeping an eye out to see who they sign though, because if they bring in the right players, their style of football is suited to this competition. Absolutely. If they stick with the youth approach that they've been going with in the back half of this season with Andrea Lombardo, they'll probably just stay where they are. But look, that might be okay because I think even 5-10 years ago, if you said Eastern Lions would be an NPL club, even to people from Eastern Lions, they wouldn't have believed you.
Well, Eastern Lions season wraps up. St Albans away on Sunday, Hume City at home on the 30th, and Green Gully away and Heidelberg at home. So there's actually some winnable games in there, especially against St Albans.
I wouldn't be surprised to see them get a result over
I think now the pressure might come off them a little bit and they might be able to put something together. Meanwhile, for Melbourne Knights, their season continues against Dandy Thunder. Of course, they're still got to play the game against Green Gully. That was postponed a fortnight ago, as well as taking on Oakleigh, Altona and Port Melbourne. Lachie, let's move on to game 2 of the week, and obviously a lot of action and a lot of exciting action. We'll get to our match of the round later, which is Oakleigh, South Melbourne. But let's go to Sunday. Heidelberg versus Hume. A lot on the line for both teams. Heidelberg winning 3-2. Heidelberg staying right in touch with the top 6 as a result. Now only goal difference behind Green Gully in the race for 6th. But meanwhile, for Hume, 2 points clear. That gap with Dandy City just slowly, it closes just a little bit after Dandy City getting the point against Port Melbourne. But very entertaining game. Hume pushed Heidelberg right to their limits, but Heidelberg just too strong in the end, bouncing back after 2 games without a win.
Yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed watching this on the Sunday on NPL.TV. I didn't go down to Olympic Village. Unfortunately, it was a little bit too
cold.
Too cold for that one. But yeah, absolutely cracking game. Honestly, the result goes the way of Heidelberg in the end. But this could have gone in either direction, to be quite honest with you. I mean, if you haven't watched the goals already from the weekend, definitely make sure you go back and watch Sean Ellis's goal inside the opening 5 minutes. An absolutely beautiful curling strike from the Scotsman. And yes, I am biased because he's a Scotsman. But it is just it continues to be really, really good to see that he's weathered that storm of injury that he dealt with in the opening phase of the season and now is really kicking into that sort of old Sean Ellis, delivering on a consistent basis at our level that we know is really, really solid and one that we know that he's been capable of in the past. That'll be, I think, a big, assuming that Heidelberg do make it into the finals, because it's not a guarantee.
No,
it's not tight. It's not a guarantee at all, but I think he will be, his rejuvenation will be a real ace in the hole for them. But honestly, on the balance of chances, this game could have gone either way. Hume created a real lot of chances over the course of the 90. I think Goran Lozanovsky said at full time they created enough opportunities to win 2 games. I don't know if I'd go that far, but they certainly, I think, were better value than a 3-2 loss suggests. But that opening goal after 5 minutes was just it. That was it for a very, very long time in this game. And then out of nowhere, it exploded. Heidelberg thought they'd wrapped it up when Owen Ashton tapped into an empty net about 12 minutes before the full-time whistle. And then swiftly, Hume pulled one back. It was a very, very nice goal. In fact, no, it wasn't. The final goal was the final goal. It was an own goal from Kane Shepherd, who then made it 3-1, redeeming himself on the other end of the pitch. And again, Heidelberg were like, oh, thank God. Okay, a little bit of a scare, but we've survived the threat of Hume. We've seen them off. But then again, in stoppage time, a ripping goal from Lachie Weir to make the final 3 minutes interesting. Unfortunately, not enough for Hume, but yeah, I think they will come away from that game buoyed by the fact that even though they didn't get the result, their performances are good enough to me to suggest that they will stay up in this competition.
Yeah, no, I agree. And Hume at the moment, coming off those 2 wins going into this game, were full of confidence. They'll take that confidence, despite not winning, into their game against Green Gully next Saturday. Heidelberg, on the other hand, hosting Dandenong City. So I think that Hume fans will be hoping that Heidelberg can do them a favour against the side that is only now 2 points behind them, because a Dandy City win and a Hume loss will put Hume back into the bottom 2. But for me, I think Hume City will probably still stay up when it's all said and done. But good on Kane Shepherd as well, getting on the score sheet, Lachie. He's now up to 3rd on the Golden Boot standings. 12 goals this season, 5 behind Harry Sawyer and 2 behind Wade Decker. He's having a good run at the moment, and we know that Heidelberg have a certain Australia Cup game coming up in about a week's time. So he's certainly going to be one of those guys to really keep an eye on. So we'll just wonder as well how the Australia Cup phase for a lot of these teams, including Heidelberg, might impact them in terms of squad rotation. So it's something to certainly keep an eye on in the weeks to come. Lachie, let's keep the train rolling into Game 3, and let's go back to Friday night. We spoke about Green Gully, 2-0 winners against St Albans.
Something of a local derby as well.
Green Gully, after 3 games without a win, got back on the winners list. Quite a convincing 2-0 win. St Albans, on the other hand, another game without a win. We spoke about them and Altona being dragged somewhat close, which they have as a result of Dandy City now getting 4 points from their last 6. 4 out of a possible 6 points in their last 2 games.
I was going to say 4
but St Albans' issues
impressive.
in front of goal continue to plague them. Now, this is now a
7.
So 1 goal in their last 7 games, and that is really concerning right now. But Green Gully, on the other hand, in the top 6, got a game in hand in that real log jam for the last 3 spots inside the top 6, but a massive 3 points going their way after a bit of a rough run.
Yeah, well, it's been a bit of a wild few weeks for Gully. Obviously, they were for quite a long time this season sort of enshrined in their position as best of the rest behind South Oakleigh Port, and then all of a sudden 3 weeks and they're sort of fighting to maintain that position inside the top 6. So to win the winnable games, which St Albans is a game they should be winning, they did it. And I think the most pleasing aspect of it as well is that both Noel Bernarda, who scored for the first time in 3 weeks, and Alex Salmon both got on the score sheet in this game. I just don't think, for all the positives of Green Gully this season, I don't know if they've quite figured out how best those two can function together and operate. When it does work, it really works well, but we don't necessarily see it consistently enough, in my view. So to see them both score was really, really good, although I don't think St Albans keeper Will Lejeune will want to see Alex Salmon's goal again. Still the clear second best chip that we've seen at Green Gully Reserve over the years. Alex Salmon playing second fiddle to Liam Boland in those stakes. But good win for Gully. 2-0 scoring, pretty much just either side of the start and the end of the game. And well, good for them.
St Albans, on the other hand, Lachie, as we mentioned, they are 6 points inside or 6 points clear at the moment. They are still sitting in 11th. They host Eastern Lions on Sunday. That's going to be a must. I got to say, just to make sure of it, Lachie, I'm going to be blunt here and say I think that's must win for St Albans, just to get a bit of confidence back. You want to be beating Eastern Lions as well, who are already relegated, while Green Gully taking on a buoyant Hume side, really a desperate Hume side. So that game is going to be a danger one. A bit of a Northwest derby in their own right, so another bit of a close proximity geographical rivalry there. So Green Gully looking to continue their winning ways after the win on Friday. Let's now go to Saturday, Lachie, Saturday afternoon at Paisley Park. Avondale 1, Altona 0. Big win for Avondale in terms of, as well, getting back into some form after 2 losses, 3 in all competitions, especially going into their game on Thursday against Mindil Aces in the Australia Cup. Again, I mean, a 1-0 scoreline, whether it's Altona winning or Altona losing, has sort of become the norm this season, Lachie. But they got the job done. They're 4th. They've got themselves a 1-point gap on Heidelberg at the moment, but it's a really important 3 points going into the last month of the season. Well,
I mean, you were talking about teams who have been, struggling in front of goal, and it's not a shock really to see that St Albans and Altona are currently locked on 23 points with one another, and both sort of, while not pressing the panic buttons that I'm sure exist at Churchill Reserve and Paisley Park, the finger would be hovering over the button at the moment, because there are only 2 goals for them in their last 5 games, and they have lost all 5 in that stretch. The last win actually over Dandenong Thunder over a month ago now. So, God, this was a relegation battle that was just between Hume and Dandy City. It was whoever's going to go out of these two. And just slowly but surely, we have seen these 2 teams above. Maybe it was a psychological thing. Maybe they both thought that they were
safe,
were home and dry. But slowly but surely, they are being dragged pretty violently at the moment back into the relegation race. As you said earlier, the sort of ace in the hole for St Albans and also for Hume is that they both get to play the Eastern Lions in their remaining games of the season. Dandy City and Altona do not have that luxury. And I do just think that there's a case to be made that St Albans or Altona, their form merits relegation. But
their early season form was enough.
They are still, despite all of it, if Dandenong City were on 19 points and level with Hume, then I'd be like, okay, you guys should really be freaking the hell out right now. But the fact that it's a 6-point gap from Dandenong City
with a healthy goal difference
to St Albans and Altona, would make me relax a bit more. Maybe they can afford to take their foot off the gas because Dandenong City's run home, Heidelberg away, Avondale, South, Bentley. I literally could not think of a worse run to have of 4 games to save yourself.
Let me just say that, though, that the Dandy City are going to be potentially taking on 3 opposition who are coming off short turnarounds from their Australia Cup games, which might just throw a bit of a spanner into the works. We know Avondale's squad is ruined by injury at the moment. And
I like your devil's advocate.
Yeah, and Heidelberg playing this weekend going into that game against Brisbane Roar would be a curious sort of watch to see how George Katsakis sort of takes that game. So that's something just to keep an eye on. Bit of a subplot there, but I still think that Altona will stay up
Every team has undoubtedly, well, not easy, an easier run. Altona, South, Bentley, Knights, St Albans, Eastern, Thunder, Oakleigh, and then Altona on the final day. So that'll be fascinating. And then Hume have Gully, Eastern, Thunder, and Oakleigh. So Dandenong City's clearly got the most work cut out from that run, which would be fine if they didn't have 17 points.
Absolutely. Well, let's talk about Dandy City when they got that 17th point. It's a massive point for them because their real horror run home started on Saturday down at JL Murphy Reserve in Port Melbourne. They went down 1-0 early thanks to Chris Duggan, but managed to pull one back and get the equaliser through Nicholas Dibb, who's back at Dandenong City, back scoring goals. And that's a massive point for Dandy City because right now all points are a luxury right now to keep themselves in the hunt. So what that really means is they're only 2 points behind. They're 6 off Altona and St Albans, and obviously going into that run home. It's a big point for them. For Port Melbourne, it's 2 points dropped in my opinion because with Oakleigh dropping points, it was a golden opportunity for them to get within 2 points of Oakleigh and potentially get a top 2 spot. So I know it does close the gap to 4 points in a sense with that point, but I think that Adam Pittock's side would be a bit disappointed they didn't claim all 3 from a game that really they should have won.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think we can see Port Melbourne sometimes struggle a little bit against teams like this, particularly in recent weeks. I know that most people are impressed with Port's ability to play the ball on the deck, and rightly so. But in the last few weeks, their sort of most potent area and what's really allowed them to blow by teams has been their threat on the transition. Like so many of their goals in recent times, pretty much all 4 they scored against Altona, both goals they scored against Dandenong Thunder. I know that's a few weeks ago now, but have all been catching opposition sides out on the break and moving forward, getting the ball at the other end in a few passes. So it's not surprising that, you know, a team like Dandenong City, not necessarily going to give them that same sort of space, is a game in which they struggle. Look, great draw for Dandenong City, but the problem is their final 4 games of the season, if they're all draws, it does nothing for them. They need wins. Like this draw is great, but it can't be it.
But with Hume dropping points and their really poor goal difference compared to Hume, it does take it under 3 points.
That's true.
It does help to an extent.
It's still a valuable point, but there's going to be at least 1 win from those 4 that they've got left.
Before we move on from this game, must apologise. It was confirmed. We'll deliberate on this before the show. The final touch for Port Melbourne's open that came off Ross Archibald. So it wasn't a Chris Duggan goal. So Chris Duggan missed the opportunity to get his 12th of the season, which would have taken him level 3rd in the Golden Boot standings.
Also, the good thing is, he didn't score the goal, but he was crucial in setting it up. It was his shot that deflected to Nicholas Dibb to tap into an empty net.
Nicholas Dibb.
Sorry?
Talking about Chris Duggan.
No. I'm talking about the Dandy City goal. The Dandy City goal here. It was his shot that deflected towards Nick Dibb to allow him to score the equaliser. Another good performance, I thought, from Tommy Semi. His direct running style is really, really suiting Dandenong City, and I'm glad that regardless of, I'm glad that Altona look like they're probably going to be okay because he's going to be in a team that may well get relegated, but he will be coming back and staying with us in the NPL. And that is a relief because I do think in the right system, as we're seeing at the moment, there's a real player in Tommy Semi.
Well, it's going to be interesting next week because, as we said, Dandy City take on Heidelberg and Port Melbourne playing on Tuesday night against Avondale down at, it's not ABD Stadium anymore. It's the Valley Sports.
Valley Park Event
Valley
Centre.
Park Event Centre.
Come on,
yeah.
Nick.
Lachie, sorry, mate. But that game, and we'll talk about that a little bit later, has some big stakes on the line, especially for a certain premiership. Lachie, let's go to Saturday night, but we'll go to your game that you had the luxury of calling down at George Andrews Reserve. Dandenong Thunder 2, Bentley Greens 2. On this show, you've been advocating for the late finals push for Dandenong Thunder. And at one point, this is 2 weeks in a row now, they've looked like they're going to go on to an unlikely win. And 2 weeks in a row now, they've coughed up said lead and dropped points. So is that it for Dandenong Thunder? It's a valuable point for Bentley, but have you lost faith yet? 7 points off, 4 games to go.
I'm bullish about the.
Yeah, you're hanging on. You're hanging on.
I guess I'd be a bear in investment terms. But anyway, I don't know investing. This is not investing. This is not the barefoot investor. We're not doing that. I think that might be it. They really, really needed to win this game. If they got the 3 points, which they were right up until the final 10 minutes of the match, odds on to do, the gap between them and sixth place would have been 4 points, which is doable.
Yes.
Which is definitely doable. Now, as I look over at the table, it's 7 points. It's really, really hard to do that in 4 games, particularly when I know, well, they've still got Heidelberg in front of them, but, you know, it's going to be tough for them. But it was so close. It was so close. They weren't necessarily... Neither team, I think, were at their best to start the game. Bentley Greens, I think, struggled a little bit inside the opening 20 minutes while dominating more of the ball. They didn't create a lot of good attacking chances. I think it was, clear that they were coming off that short turnaround of the Doherty Cup, which, again, is another important thing to factor in. Maybe the reason I'm only drawing the line through Thunder in grey lead pencil at the moment is all 3 teams above them in the finals fight all have to travel, all have to do, Heidelberg don't.
Well, you said all 3 or all 4 teams, Lachie, all have to play in the Australian Cup.
Well, I guess Avondale are only 1 point further ahead, so let's not rule them out of this race for the top 6. But they all have to play FFA Cup. They're all going to be operating off these shorter turnarounds, so maybe that just gives them a little chance. Could have really enshrined that if they got the win. They got off to a really good, despite being on the back foot in the possession stakes in the opening 20 minutes. The 2 new mid-season signings, Anthony Frangi and Scott Lockheed, combining for a pretty nice goal from Anthony Frangi, and I think he, as I suspected, this was their first home game back at George Andrews since the mid-season window, so first time back for 3 games, and I think Anthony Frangi really relished the chance to play in front of the home crowd, even if it was a reduced home crowd because of the weather. Then a big high ball over the top from a corner. Just 5 minutes later, they like to do things. They're a momentum team, Thunder. They like to surge, and Tom Maricic heading home from the corner, which is a big... Pierce Clark kind of lost it in the air. He does have a bit of that. I like him. I think he's a good shot stopper, but he does have a bit of that kind of, error-prone stuff in his game now and again, and I do think he could have done a bit better with that one. Anyway, Thunder at 2-0, I think, were content to sit on that lead. They didn't look particularly... Like, the time wasting started from before the second half whistle blew, because Bentley Greens at halftime, they were back out straight away. Thunder didn't come out until probably 4 or 5 minutes after Bentley came out.
Yeah.
And to the point where Yannis is the referee had to move Thunder rooms and blow the whistle and get them to come out. So there were these constant complaints during the second half from Nick Tolios saying why do we only have that the wind was taking the balls when they were off target shots from Bentley 20 metres down down the sort of car park grass area at George Andrews, and shockingly, no one was in a real hurry to get them back. So the delay tactics from Thunder started really, really early. Some of them, mind you, were wind assisted. Noah James kept putting his ball down for goal kicks, but because the wind was so strong, it kept rolling out of place. And rather than trying to kick it on the move, he would go out of his way to make sure he replaced it, to the point where it happened 5 times from a single goal kick. 5 times he set the ball down and it rolled out. Maybe Thunder deserved this eventual Bentley comeback, but yeah, Bentley started to create better chances. Noah James made some good saves, and then it was a bit of a scrapper in the end, a big cross passed from right to left. Jacob Alexander's able to head it across goal. He did really well to actually work hard to keep that a contest. Ajak Riak hits the ball. It smacks off the underside, and I think eventually he's credited with the goal, but it might have come off a Thunder player in the mix there. But then 76 minutes, Bentley Greens were absolutely back on. And this is the interesting thing about them, is that final 15 minutes of games is where they are sort of at their most potent.
It's the green zone.
It is the green zone, because they've scored 39 goals this season, and while not half of their goals, I think it's 17 now have been in the final 15 minutes, which is not half of their goals, but it's quite a high proportion. And 2 of them came in this game, and it ended up saving them a point. Ajak Riak scoring his second in the 87th minute, played through beautifully off the bench by a reverse pass from Mitch Hoare. And Bentley Greens were mounting their case for a winner, but they had to contend themselves with a draw. Much better point for the Greens than it was for Thunder, who, I said, maybe that is just the end of their finals run. But I do think we are seeing what they might be capable of.
Absolutely. And Dandy Thunder taking on Melbourne Knights on Friday night down at Knights Stadium. So they're really going to have to win that game. And Bentley, because of their Australia Cup duties against Broadmeadow, Kingston Heath on Thursday, have had their clash with Oakleigh moved. So that's on Friday, go on Thursday for the Australia Cup. And
unless
then
you're going for like golf, driving range reasons.
But I'm saying if you're going for the
football. Don't go for football, No, that's a good point.
Let's go to the final game of the weekend. And
the match of the round.
Match of the round.
We're getting the chance to cheat this week because like we say, we always get someone on from the match of the round. This time, we've got someone in the room who was there for it. So here we are.
So South Melbourne versus Oakleigh. And oh my God, it was freezing down at Lakeside. Did you know Albert Park Lake? When you're we were talking about the bodies of water yesterday when we were down at the Veneto Club, and we speak about how when you're closer to a body of water on a cold night, it feels like it's cooler because the water comes, the air comes. Look, I'm no meteorologist, but from what I can gather, it feels like it's cooler when it's like when you're near the beach. It feels cooler when you go down there.
The water off the
so you're getting it off the lake. And so it felt freezing down at Lakeside. Now,
well, I just want to give the listeners and the viewers an inside track into the lead up to this game, because you hadn't really you'd been busy during the day, so you hadn't really left the house before going to Lakeside, and you sent me this message saying, "Oh, Christ Almighty, it's cold."
Yeah.
Now I'd obviously been at Epping Stadium, so I knew exactly how cold it was. And I said Lakeside is a wind chamber at the best time, let alone at what this is now, which is the worst time. So I imagine it would have been blustery.
On Saturday, obviously, was with my cousins. We watched the footy together all day. Didn't go outside. It was beautiful to watch the game, and then we said, let's go watch it at the D'Urbano residence. Why not? So I'll ask because we do to go print off our notes.
Not everyone can afford a printer.
No, we. That's
actually
printer ink is expensive.
Yeah, it's not the printer, it's the ink.
It's the ink. The printer's not
cannot afford magenta.
Yeah, so
I don't even use it, but I need to pay for it somehow.
So, anyways, went out, stepped the first time, like, oh God, like lucky I've brought gloves, lucky I've brought a beanie. This is going to be freezing. And even my mum said before I left home, Nick, have you got a thick enough jacket? And I'm like, yep, I think so. But it was definitely not a thick enough jacket. And I had a puffer on. Not this puffer, it was a thicker than this one.
Okay, well, the conditions were miserable, but how was the game?
So the game, we got there, Josh Parrish and I called the game. It was not, look, from a pure football standpoint, it wasn't a great game.
Okay.
The stakes, though, it felt so tense. It just felt like everything that happened in that game, there was just extra magnitude to it. It felt like a big game.
Well, it seemed like the crowd made
crowd was pretty good.
Yeah.
Crowd was pretty good. Really good turnout from the South End. Yeah. I think if it was a nicer day, we would have had a better turnout. Yeah. First of all, first half, I mean, Oakleigh were without Joe Knowles. One thing to keep obviously to remember, he's on trial with Brisbane Roar. He was also suspended for that game.
On trial.
With 5 yellow cards, so he wasn't able to play. So they went with Chris Lucas, who started, and he was brilliant. He took that opportunity in the starting lineup. He was very good. And obviously, South Liram Almazi, they didn't really affect them too much defensively. They went with, the usual suspects, Giba, Marshall, Yankovic and Norton.
Well,
so
what was the midfield pairing?
Midfield pairing was Schroen and Langlois.
Okay, so they went with the two. Because I think that was the sort of the concern is that they don't really have like a ready-made defensive midfield presence.
So they went with that. And then further up it was Webb, Brennan and Mikola, with obviously Harry Sawyer leading the line. Now, Oakleigh actually had the better of the chances early. So Daniel Clark, 2 minutes, which saved on the goal line by Javi Lopez, and it looked like it almost crossed the line. It was an inch from crossing the line. Daniel Clark was brilliant, I've got to say. He provided a lot of energy in the final third, just running all day, causing havoc. Probably should have scored, lucky not to. But as the game wore on, South grew into it. So Oakleigh had a really good burst out of the gates. They went for it. They were pressing. They were having opportunities, but just were not able to break the damn wall. Chris Lucas had a really good chance as well, and wasn't able to put it away, put it over the bar. And then the second half starts. Now, for those who are watching at home, I need to break the fourth wall a little bit here, Lachie, because I feel like for those who are watching at home might have been a bit confused as to what happened with the commentary setup of this game. Now, Josh and I we made the agreement. This is a bit of an insight into the commentary situation when you do have two people. You go either the share, play-by-play. One goes play-by-play, one goes colour. It's usually one or the other, right? Josh and I decided pre-game.
Sometimes, like I was at George Andrews here, you're by yourself.
Yes, or you're by yourself and it's just you and you're talking to yourself. Yeah. So I said to Josh said, look, we can share. I'm like, look, I'm not fussed, but he was with you in Epping and he was the cameraman in that game.
And more on that later.
I felt bad that, he hadn't. I'm like, look, all right, I'm happy to step aside, whatever. Josh hadn't eaten anything all day other than a banana, I think it was. And he
to be fair, plenty of potassium.
Yeah, plenty of potassium, but early in the day, it does get hard.
Not a lot of sustenance.
So him and Darren, shout out to Darren as well. Best wishes with your travel.
Farewell, yeah.
Farewell. Love your work. Been great working with you over the last few years.
Camera operator for Sportscast, but a long time South Melbourne cameraman.
So Darren and Josh at halftime were like, geez, we need to get something. Like, we need something to get in our system. So they ran off to the bar and grill inside. As you do know, that is absolutely packed inside Lakeside Stadium. So then they decided to detour to the coffee stand next door. Now, I was sitting there just, freezing, waiting for the second half to start. Gloves on.
Like me at George Andrews.
And it was getting close towards the start of the second half. I'm thinking, Jesus, how long is it taking to get whatever they're looking to get, chips or a Suv or whatever? And then in the end, I see Darren sprinting across the pitch, but there's no sign of Josh. I'm like, oh no, this is all right. My number's been called, Lachie. I need to get prepared. So for the first 10 minutes of the second half, Darren just goes, all right, Josh is coming. Just you're going to have to do it. I'm like, that's fine. Not an issue. Did it. But in that period of time, poor Josh missed the goal. So he did 80 minutes of the game and he didn't get any of the goals. So I got the Marcus Schroen goal.
Well, how did that goal come to pass? Because it was a Mikola long throw.
Yep. And then
could Oakleigh have done a little bit better defensively?
Well, Nick Feely spilled the beans and he was appealing for a foul, but there was no foul. And Feely just dropped it. He went up for the contested grab. But he dropped it and then Schroen was there just to tap it home, easy as you like. And then from there, really, it was all one way. Oakleigh lost Oscar Dillon to injury. It looks like a hamstring. It's a very nasty blow to their defence, which is already weakened. And of course, going into the Australia Cup, they will be without Joe Knowles. They can't play Ryan Losty.
No Mario Barcia
either because they're cup tied. But in the end, South Melbourne just able to do what they do when they take the lead, put numbers behind the ball, frustrate and not allow Oakleigh to get back into the game. Chris Lucas it was Joe Guest, had a good chance to pull one back. That was really it. So in the end, South Melbourne wins. Oakleigh doesn't win the 2021 premiership, which they would have won with a win.
They still can win.
They still can, but that would have secured it. And it keeps Port Melbourne in the hunt for top 2. But South Melbourne 5 points clear with 4 games to go. Their spot in the finals, at least, is wrapped up. So back in the finals for the first time in 5 years, Lachie.
Yeah.
Incredible it's taken this long, but it's a great turnaround from all involved at South Melbourne.
And I reckon there would have been a real satisfaction as well to enshrine that against Chris Taylor.
It was actually enshrined going into the game.
Probably enshrining the premiership too.
Yep. So they've basically wrapped it up with 4 games to go.
It would have to be a spectacularly poor run of results.
And South Melbourne are one of the few teams that don't have to worry about the Australia Cup among the finals. They're actually the only team other than Port Melbourne that don't have to worry about Australia Cup duties.
It's weird to talk about Australia Cup and have no say.
So South
Melbourne. It's been a bit of a theme of this Australia Cup. There's a lot of big teams from New South Wales as well who just aren't there.
Yeah, obviously South Melbourne had that game against Melbourne City last year. But South Melbourne now, I think, can basically cruise to top spot, lock in a home, basically a home semi, a week off. And for them right now, they're just going from from strength to strength. They take on Altona next week. And as we mentioned, Oakleigh up against Bentley away.
Interested to see how that Altona game goes because they did, Altona, if memory serves me rightly, at Paisley Park, actually did give South Melbourne some real problems because of their defensive brand of football. But as we said, this is a very different Altona Magic side that they're currently facing. Just one more question for you, Nick, because a news article came across my desk in a foreign language in relation to this game. I think it was Paul Mavridis who reshared it from Neos Cosmos, trying to claim that there was an incident in which Oakleigh had a goal that wasn't
the Daniel Clark, where that crossed the line or not, we couldn't tell from where we were standing. Because Javi Lopez had when he'd saved it, it's like he'd blocked our line of view. And even we were saying the assistant referee probably couldn't see. So
straight bat from Nick D'Urbano.
The referee, Lachie Kevers, probably had a better view of it, but he decided it was play on and it was a save. So from first-hand account, we couldn't see straight on, but in the end...
Great. So we don't get it cancelled by anyone who's listening from South.
Absolutely.
That's perfect.
We're almost running out of time, Lachie. Let's go to NPL2. Big weekend in the promotion race. Let's start off with Friday night. Brunswick Juventus 5, Langwarrin 0. Unfortunately for your mob, Langwarrin. Well, look, we're gonna run through these games very quickly. Brunswick Juventus, after not playing the week prior due to the pitch being washed out against Kingston, they get back. They're right in the thick of it now for the promotion race because that result was helped along the way by Moreland City dropping the bag, Lachie. They dropped the bag on Saturday at Wellmoney Park, 1-0 ahead, and then Brunswick City in the last dying minutes with a penalty that was saved and the rebound falling back in the favour for them, and they were able to get the chockies. Well, not the chockies, they maybe got half a chocolate, but at the end of the day, it took points off Moreland City. It cuts the gap on top, for that last promotion spot, it's to only 3 points. And Brunswick Juventus have a game in hand with a superior goal difference.
Yeah, so win that game, and they are in the promotion places direct their local rivals.
And that goal as well coming from Jesse Macarunas, a former Moreland City man who was so integral in their push for promotion in 2018, which they fell so short of in 2018 as well. Lissandro Paz, who was playing for Brunswick as well that day, who is also a former Moreland City man. But Max Bassetto getting on the score sheet that game. Really liking the look of Max Bassetto, the younger of the Bassetto brothers that are playing, obviously the sons of Morris.
I think he's only 18. But every time I've seen him this season, really has stood out. I thought he was probably the last time I saw him would have been that 8-0 game.
He was really the only bright
one, but he was the only good player in that side on the day.
Yep. So just as well, moving to the other sort of big game in that promotion race.
I see that North Geelong are probably okay, but they left it awfully late against Werribee City. I think George Ellis scored in the 89th minute.
He did, and Werribee have been a very tough team to beat over the last few weeks. Obviously, they're battling to get out of the relegation playoffs. But it's a good result for them. Obviously, North Geelong as well. One name that did come across my desk that is now featuring for them, Anthony Laban, who has made the move from Melbourne Victory. So making a move back to North. So in the end, North Geelong with the 1-0 win against Werribee, it keeps them, I believe, 5 points clear on top of the table. Yes, 8 points clear of Brunswick Juventus. Obviously, as you mentioned, Brunswick with that game in hand, but with 4 games to go, it's looking quite sure that North Geelong will be promoted and will be in the top tier next year. Down at John Kay Memorial Park, Northcote, 4-0 winners against Goulburn Valley Suns. The kids were on show. Kotzi's Corner was up and about after the game. A 4-0 win for them. They're actually finishing this season 3 wins out of their last 5 in some okay form.
Well, they're enjoying that post-manager change glow at them because 2 games now under Andy Schoolos. The interim manager until the end of the season, former assistant to Peter Salakis, and they've won teams towards the bottom end of the table in Langwarrin and the Goulburn Valley Suns as well. But they can only beat the teams in front of them, and under Andy Schoolos, they've beaten both of the teams in front of them. So that's a good result.
Absolutely. And obviously 2 goals as well from Zach Bates in some really good form as of late.
Who scored he's claiming that he scored the winner against Langwarrin. The jury's I think the dubious goals panel still assessing it.
So, as well, Monday night, 2 games last night. Kingston 0, Pascoe Vale 2. Pascoe Vale left it very late, but at the end of the day, they got the job done. 2 goals very late on in the game coming from Harris and Terence Carter coming off the bench.
Yeah, it was a real night for impact subs in the NPL2 last night,
We'll get to the Derby in just a sec, but for Pascoe Vale, it's a massive 3 points because that drop points of Mornsey does keep Pascoe Vale in the hunt. 4 points off with 4 games to go. They're still believing. We'll talk about their game, what they got coming up
next week. Episode of The Sopranos.
They are. They don't stop believing, but I don't think they're going to have someone come in.
Well, actually, down at the Veneto Club, FC Balloon Lions, it probably is time for them to start.
Yeah, so last night, Lachie, Monday night, so again, my days mixed up. We were down at the Veneto Club for the Manningham Derby, Bulleen versus the giant-killing Manningham United.
They've been in great form, undefeated, I think, in the last 5 games going into this one.
Yep, so Bulleen went down early through Kojo Brown, bit of a deflected effort that found it, and then Max Batchelor equalised from the spot. And the game sort of fell into a bit of a holding pattern until this moment. Early in the second half, Nick Vulgaris, a former Bulleen player, was breaking down the left-hand side, and then Dante Conte, a former Kingston City man. Now, we're going to preface this. Dante Conte, Lachie, give me the stat on this.
Oh, okay.
What was his disciplinary record going into before he signed for Bulleen?
Yeah, so he was a mid-season acquisition for FC Bulleen Lions, coming across from Kingston City, where, if my memory serves me correctly, his record in his start to the season at Kingston games played 2 red cards,
and 5 yellows,
So already perspective of how good the player is on the pitch. I would that any coach or analyst or person involved in making something like I reckon that's a bit of a red flag, quite literal red flag, or red card. Well, I would be concerned. So anyway, he comes across to Bulleen, has had 2 cameos off the bench, I think at 54th minute and 45th minute in the last 2 games. This was his first start.
Starting ahead of our boy.
First start at the Veneto Club, starting ahead of the man with the Inspector Gadget arms in the NPL2. If you ever get the chance to watch the FC Bulleen Lions live streams, make sure you look at Jean-Louis Embaracio's running style. Inspector Gadget arms, it has to be seen to be believed. But a big call to start him ahead of a man who has played pretty much every game for the Lions this season in Jean-Louis. And he gets, in his first start, a 3rd red card of the year for a stamp on Nick Vulgaris. And then from there, Nick, it was on for young and old.
It was a everyone was in. I mean, George Zamaranis.
So basically, to recap, so Manningham are on the attack.
Yep.
Nicholas Vulgaris is running forward.
Gets fouled.
Basically runs into Dante Conte. They both topple over on one another. And I think in that moment, Dante Conte took exception to the way in which he was barged over, and that was where the little stamp happened. Yeah. And that's when it kicked off.
Yeah.
Only in the end, a red card for Conte and a yellow card for George Zamaranis. And I got to say, Nick, because for those who don't know, Manningham play, their home kit is sky blue, Bulleen obviously playing in the maroon. I've got to say, when they were brawling with one another, it did look quite a lot, and apologies for the cross-sport reference, it looked quite a lot like the State of Origin.
It was Origin 3 the other day.
If Wansuk Choi for Bulleen and George Zamaranis weren't going one-on-one, it was
opposite goalkeepers.
Different colours. The goalkeeper against goalkeeper. Crazy. If they weren't there, I would have been like, okay, we're playing the State of Origin at the bend now.
Absolutely.
I'm all for it.
Yeah, and you saw everyone running over. So the fourth official, Luke Genimatis running across the pitch. We saw Nick Tubby and Vincent Nuzzo as well getting involved to help Oliver Bannister, the referee. It was on for young and old. And I'm very surprised that Ned McCarthy didn't get sent off as well, because when the play stopped, he came and completely steamrolled Dante Conte. And I was very surprised that he didn't even get a yellow card. But in the end, play went on, Lachie. Sorry. Can
I just say one more thing about the red cards? Because I do want to put it out there to the listeners.
I know what you're going to say.
Dante Conte, as we've mentioned, 3 red cards for the year. Now, that may seem exceptional, a stat to you, dear listener or viewer, whatever you may be. But I've got something even crazy for you. He's not the only player in the NPL2 this year with 3 red cards. There are 2. Langwarrin captain Rogan McGeorge also has 3 red cards this season. And now I know we've got some history buffs who have watched or listened to this show and have told us that they listen to this show. Hello to Tony Pasolia if you're watching. And if you've got access to the red card history books, I don't know if such a thing exists. Yeah. But if you do, I would love to know. I would love to know because I've never, ever, ever seen it. If there is another season of Victorian football in the NPL where 2 players have gotten 3 red cards in a single year. And not only that, that takes the grand total after 2 red cards in separate games last night. It takes the grand total of red cards in the NPL2 this year to 41 red cards. I don't know what the average. Incredible. Like I tried to Google what's the average number of red cards in a season, which doesn't really work because seasons play a different amount of games. But it just feels like an astronomically large amount. Like I don't know if I'm going crazy.
No,
it is.
That
meme
a huge
where the guys
amount,
got all the red tape across the board and it's like Pepe Sylvia. It's from Always Sunny. But I don't know whether I'm going crazy, but that seems like a gargantuan number of red cards.
Yeah.
And 6 of them
bang on
for 2 people.
Yeah.
If you've ever seen anything like it or can beat it, even if it's your own state league season, please do get in contact with either myself or Nick or just the FNR radio channels.
Absolutely. Well, Lachie, we've got to quickly rush through the rest of this game, but what a winner it was for Emmanuel Peters coming on, targeting that right-hand side, which Fausto Diamicis weirdly didn't make a sub to bring.
He left Carlton Westerdale on there and kind of fed him to the Wolves.
Yeah, and that was a great finish for Emmanuel Peters and great scenes from the Manningham fans. They came to life in the second half.
Very good voice
well, it is obviously a local derby, but it leaves Bulleen 7 points off the pace. Manningham, on the other hand, now 9 points clear of the bottom 2. They are in some ripping form at the moment. Just racing through next week's fixtures in NPL2, Brunswick City versus Northcote on Saturday. That's the NPL.TV featured contest down at Dunstan Reserve. Manningham versus Moreland, which, if the trends are anything to go by, Manningham are going to beat Moreland. So,
well, they've taken points off every side in the top 5 so far. They've already got a draw with Moreland City. Maybe they can do it again.
Yep. So if you're a Brunswick Juventus, still Bulleen fan, I guess, or Pascoe Vale fan, you'd be hedging your bets, hoping that Manningham can get the job done. Bulleen, it's really now their tiniest of chances of promotion.
Absolutely perfect 20.
Werribee, they go to Werribee on Saturday. Not an easy game because Werribee as well, being 2 points inside the drop, they need to win to get out of that promotion relegation battle. They're 2 points behind both Langwarrin and Kingston, who actually play each other on Monday night.
That's a very important game.
Huge game.
It's a very important game.
As well on Saturday, GV Suns taking on Brunswick Juventus up in Shepparton, and probably the game of the round, Pascoe Vale hosting North Geelong at 5 p.m. on Saturday down at CB Smith Reserve. I can't wait for that because if Pascoe Vale wins, it does bring if as well Brunswick Juventus do win as well, it brings North Geelong right back into the hunt, really right back into the pack, and it gets Pascoe Vale potentially right back in the hunt for promotion. So looking forward to that. Quick run through NPL 3, Lachie. North Sunshine 3, Springvale 2. Preston Lions with a 1-0 win against Whittlesea. They're closing in.
Goal number 11 of the year for Connor Bell. 7 straight wins, 5 straight clean sheets. An 8-point gap now between them and Melbourne Victory, and also the return of a Preston legend, Sash Ognanovsky. Well, just an Australian football legend, really, in many respects. Came back. He's obviously re-signed in the mid-season window, came off the bench for Victory, but he got his first start in Preston's injury-hit back line, played for the first time as a Preston starter since May 2018.
Which is pretty crazy.
And look, I got to say, he didn't look out of place.
Yeah.
He did not look out of place at all.
Well, I'll tell you what, it's good to see him back out there. And Preston at the moment closing in on promotion. So a big game next week against Western United, who did win 2-0 against Melbourne Victory.
Yeah, they win that and they're pretty much guaranteed. Western United have given themselves an extra chance with what was quite a shock win, really, against Melbourne Victory in many respects. Pretty much largely down to Yanni Panakos, who scored
what a goal.
A ripping goal from 25 yards. And
Can I just have one point about Yanni Panakos?
Yes.
Do you know what his Instagram handle is?
No.
Yanisius Jr., like Vinicius Jr., but he's changed it. He's really embracing the tag.
I don't know whether he's changed that after the goal or whether that's always been the thing, but his thing is just scoring against Melbourne Victory because he scored it both times against them. Didn't get the result the first time around, but this time he did. A massive shoot yourself in the foot moment for Victory, who brought down most, if not all, of their leading talent, some of them who had played against Manchester United the night before, and they went down 2-0. They had made enough chances to win 3 games. They went down 2-0. Really hanging by a thread now.
Well, that certainly helps Nunawading, who got a point against Melbourne City. They're 4 points off the pace. Obviously, Melbourne City now only 2 points clear of Preston on top of the table. You'd think both those teams are going to get promoted nonetheless, but it's a big point for Nunawading. Doveton 2-0 winners over Ballarat City, and Box Hill winning 2-1 against Geelong. So Ballarat City and Springvale still in a bit of a battle for who's going to go down to the state leagues, but at the moment, Ballarat a point clear going into the last 4 games. Friday night, Preston versus Western United. Probably the game of the round. Looking forward to that one. Saturday, North Sunshine taking on Doveton. Again, huge contest there for North Sunshine. Whittlesea versus Melbourne City, top versus bottom down at Epping. Ballarat taking on Melbourne Victory, a lot on the line for Victory. Nunawading versus Box Hill, and Geelong taking on the Springvale White Eagles on Saturday night. Lachie, before we go, let's get our predictions for this weekend. We don't have the whiteboards here in front of us, but it's good for the podcast listeners anyway. It doesn't change for them.
Rejoice.
Friday night, Dandenong Thunder, Night Stadium, 7:30 p.m.
I'm going to go with a repeat of the scoreline that happened last time these two sides played. I'm going to say Dandenong Thunder 3, Melbourne Knights 1.
I'm going to go Dandenong Thunder 2-0 winners. Quite comfortable.
Clean sheet for the Thunder. You know what? Their defence has been really good recently. Thomas Maricic has been playing well.
I think they'll win and they'll keep their slender promotion finals hopes alive. Saturday night, South Melbourne versus Altona, 6:45 at Lakeside.
You know what? I'm going to be really boring. I am going to go for the same scoreline the last time these two sides played, which was 1-0 South Melbourne.
I'm going to go a 2-0 win to South Melbourne. I think it'll be a bit more convincing than that. Saturday night in Hume City versus Green Gully. Big contest for both teams.
Oh, I reckon this might be sleeper agent for best game of the round. Just have a funny feeling. I'm going to be really outlandish because I've been so boring for my first 2 predictions. 3-3.
Wow. I'm going a 3-2 win for Green Gully.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
St Albans versus Eastern Lions, Sunday, 3 p.m. at Churchill Reserve.
Come on, do it. Tip Eastern Lions, Nick. I know you want to.
Eastern Lions 1-0.
Okay. 1-0 Eastern Lions, 2-1 St Albans.
Okay. Heidelberg versus Dandy City, 3 p.m. at the Village on Sunday.
4-2 Heidelberg.
4-1 Heidelberg.
Okay. I thought you were moving on to the next game. No. You didn't give me a prediction.
Bentley Oakleigh, Monday night at Kingston Heath, 7:30 p.m.
Gee, this is a tough one because both of these sides are going to have to be thinking about, Bentley will have already played and Oakleigh as well. So they're going to be thinking about management of the squad.
Yes. Oh. You know what, Lachie, if you're taking your time, I'm going to go 1-1.
See, I was going to go 2-2. So there we go. Right. A nice little Desmond to round out the weekend. Well, no, not round out the weekend because Avondale have moved their game to Tuesday night.
Now, if Avondale wins against Port Melbourne on Tuesday night, they will win the 2021 Premiership. And you know what? I'm going to say that their party is spoiled and they're going to fall.
So they have to win, just to confirm for the listeners. So they have to win, or is a draw going to...
Let me just confirm.
My reading was 2 points behind. So a draw would get them there.
So I am going to be the bearer of bad, and I'm going to say it's going to be a 1-1 draw, and Oakleigh are crowned 2021 premiers.
So a point's not enough?
No, they have to win.
They have to win. Okay.
I just think Avondale comes to short turnaround as well. Keep that in mind.
I'm going to say 1-0 Port Melbourne.
Oh, so we're both saying Oakleigh's champions or premiers for 2021.
Yeah, why not?
All right, great.
It's fun.
Anyways,
I'm sure everyone wanted to hear that.
Lachie, it's time for us to go.
Yes, it is.
We need to run.
We do.
Thank you very much for everyone who's supported the podcast. We really appreciate all the support over social media over the last few days. We apologise as well for those who saw the mini promotion on Monday that we're going to do a show live from the Venetor Club. Unfortunately, due to unforeseen circumstances, we weren't able to do the show, but here we are today on a Wednesday bringing it to you anyway. We'll be back after the Tuesday game next week, only because we want to make sure we find out who the premiers are and get every game in possible. So we'll communicate what time slot that will be going out on next week. But for myself, Nick D'Urbano, and Lachie Flannigan,
see ya.